so that may affect what kind of project you choose. It might be that you work with third parties. Let's say you're in that knitting community, and you want to create a series of knitting tips, for instance. Well, maybe, just to make sure that any content, if people add tips to you or suggest things to you, that, make sure that you get all the rights to be able to use those content for those tips. So rights are something that something to think about as you're constructing your project. Now it might be that you want to do something. You can do something if you want, and if folks at your house are comfortable with it, around a title that you're working with or that you know about. It might be, for instance, let's say there's a business book, you're in a business imprint. Well, maybe and there's a particular business title that's coming out. Maybe you would want to create a series of inspirational tips around that business book. That's sort of using ancillary material to the business books, and maybe you'd work with the author, or maybe not, whatever. So it could be that kind of content. It might be. We had a great idea coming actually from a blogger called Wikipedia Tours, and what those are is a series of sort of knowledge-based tours where, for instance, I think we have 35 of them. One is on Greek mythology, and every day you get a god or goddess in your inbox, and it's just a little paragraph taken from Wikipedia. And we have one on religions, we have one on capitals throughout the world. And you can do a Wikipedia tour, that's fine, but I think it's probably more interesting if you develop your own kind of thing. It might be, you mentioned you used to teach English language. Well, maybe it's an English language course, and every day you get a little lesson or something like that. Or, I don't know what your areas of interest, but, think in terms of, identifying what your passions are, and because also, one of the things that I encourage you all to do is to get involved in the community around whatever that project you've identified. So, for instance, if you're passionate about science fiction, to then start engaging in the science fiction community. And my goal for you is to be one of the leaders in that area of interest. And maybe it's I think you can go narrow. I think you could be the leaders in, vampire, romance, in, whatever it is, that you become the leader of, where you become a focal point, and you can use these various tools to interact with other members of the community that are that have made a name for themselves, and so you become very much involved. And I think you'll find, as you become engaged in these various communities, that will carry you far beyond what this project is, but later on, as you pursue your next career step, because people will be looking for people who have established communities and established followings. And what's great about the internet and Twitter, to your point, is that you can very easily see how many followers you have and how many people are contributing to your blog and how many people are referring to you and what you're writing about. So it's very satisfying. So how's that?
That's very good.
Just keep me on track.
Pay for effort. So basically, going off of what Susan said, in terms of integrating with communities, when I do the marketing, obviously for DailyLit, and online there's a lot of blurred boundaries between communities and marketing and content and creation and acceptance. It's kind of a mishmash of everything. So when you're creating these projects and integrating into communities, that's really starting marketing your project, because you're making a name for yourself, you're making yourself a brand, a part of a certain community. And so as you're developing these projects, as we've mentioned on our worksheet here, our expectation is that you'll have a Twitter account, and you'll be tweeting about what you're doing, what you're working on, the kinds of people you're interacting with, what blogs you're reading, tweeting links to the blogs, just being connected to the community, and people will start to follow you and see that. They'll see your name come up, and have your own blog where you'll be blogging about what you're discovering, cool articles, cool people you've been talking to, just kind of the experience of getting out there and getting into these communities. And both of those things, Susan said, you're making a presence for yourself online. And I don't know how many of you were at Debbie Steer's talk, but see about you, and you want it to be what you want them to see. So this really gives you an opportunity to make a name for yourself out there. And so, as you're building this project and creating it and talking about it, the buzz is going to be building. And on Twitter and in the blogosphere, and you can keep track of things in a lot of different ways through, for instance, I track DailyLit hits through Google News alerts and Twitter RSS feeds and search results for DailyLit, so I can see everything people are saying about DailyLit, which is great because I kind of have my pulse on my finger on the pulse of everything. I can see if someone tweets about a problem they have, for instance, and I can get back to them right away. So there's a ton of tools to use. And you can even use Google Analytics if you want to get into it and see the traffic on the blog if you're interested in that. But really, as I was saying, it's all melding together. And so as you're building your project, you're doing your own marketing. And so it's really important to have an active presence on Twitter, because you can't just have a project and when it's finished and then just sort of start going in, like Debbie said, it's going into a room and kind of shouting at people. If you're not already a part of that community and you don't already have people listening to you, when you have a finished product and you have sort of marketing copy, traditional marketing copy, or a little blurb about it, no one's gonna listen to you, because there's a lot of other people online, there's a lot of other stuff to read, and if you don't have those sort of inroads already laid down, you'll find it really hard, I think, to sort of get any traction online. So I think the main point of what I want to say is that don't think of marketing as the end. Think of it as starting from the beginning and always side by side with your project, because it is truly, it has to be. You have to kind of think of it that way.
Engaging others.
Exactly. It's there's hardly a difference between marketing and becoming a member of a certain kind of community, because it's really the same thing. Because you need those people later on to.
And they could even contribute to the project.
Well, exactly. I mean, those kind of editorial marketing, everything's kind of
blurry.
Everybody's at the same party, so.
The other thing you point that we're very serious about is transparency. So, do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah, that's another thing. My agenda in front of me is like, let's don't forget to talk about transparency. So, online transparency is really important, and I'm sure you've read about this in the last few years. As Twitter's come along, especially when companies try and kind of control the spin about something or control the story, it doesn't really work very well anymore. It's just, you can see through this sort of fake front they're putting on. So it's really important to be totally transparent. So if you're posting in a forum about something, be honest about who you are and what you're doing. Don't pretend that you're just a regular user or something. Just always be genuine and transparent about everything you're doing, because people will find out if you're not, and they'll rail you on Twitter or on their blog or whatever. You don't want to be someone who's being disingenuous, because people really don't,
We were at a
have
conference.
patience for that.